folks, so this is question 10 and it's the first part is about USC. So the way USC works is you pay a certain amount of it at a small rate, so that's the 5% here, and then you pay the next amount up to a higher rate of USC, and then you pay the rest of it at a higher rate again, so that's 7,000 or 7%. So Michelle pays the USC at all three rates. So for the first part, all you have to do is you have to work out how much she pays at 1.5%. So that's just 12,012 multiplied by, and there's different ways of finding percentages of it. So one way you could do it is you could multiply by 1.5% and use percentage button on the calculator, or you could convert that to a decimal or to a fraction. So if you're to convert to a decimal, it would be 0.015. So if you just calculate that, it'll give you the answer, and it's €180.18. Then for the next bit, it's just 5564 multiplied by it'll be 0.035, and you should get 194.74. So that's the two answers. So it's just finding 1.5% of 12,012 and then finding 3.5% of 5,564. So you're putting the answers in here. The next part then, so Michelle's gross income is X. She pays a total of 5% of her gross income in USC. So if you write an expression in X for the total amount that she pays in USC. Well, 5% of X then, so X is the total amount her gross income for the year. So that's everything she earns, but then we have to just represent 5% of that. So 5% of that would just be multiplying that by 0.05, or if you're to write it as a fraction, you could say it's 1/20, because 5% is 1/20, so x times 1/20, which is the same thing as x over 20. So you could use either of those. Find the value then of X, her gross income. Well, for this question then we have to come up with an equation. So if we let X over 20, so that's the total amount of USC she has to pay. So that's total USC. So that then has to be equal to, well, we know that she pays the amounts from part A already, so 180.18. And we know that she also pays 194.74. So that's on the first bit of her wages, and then the second bit of her wages. So we also know that she pays some amount at the 7%. So we know that everything above the 17,576 she pays at 7%. We know that her total wage is X. So therefore the amount she pays, and this is the hardest bit to come up with, the amount she pays at the 7% will be X minus the 17,576. And she pays that at 7%, so times 0.07. So X minus 17,756, that's how much of the higher rate she'll pay, and she pays 7% of that, so we multiply that by 0.07. So all of that together then is the total amount of USC she has to pay, and that's equal to X over 20, which we know is the same thing. So it's just an equation, then you can just solve it. I'm just adding those two things together, and I'm multiplying the 0.07 by both of the things over on the right hand side. We can bring the x's to one side, then the numbers well, we can multiply the 20 by everything first, or instead of you doing that, you could just leave it as x times 0.05 like before, and then you've got that plus x times 0.07, and then well, you're bringing over the 0.07x, therefore you should be subtracting it on that side. That's equal to 37492 minus 1230.32. Then if we subtract those x's from each other, we get 0.02x, and then 85540 over here, and then you're just dividing across the 0.02 in order to get x, and we get 42,770. So that's it then. So I'd say that's the hardest question so far. So it's about forming that equation and then being careful just moving things to the other side and solving it. So that's all then for that question.